Well, hey, y'all. Hey, it's your friend Patty with Giddy Things. How are you? I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I am back for part 2 of my GLP-1 Journey update. My journey with Zepbound primarily right now, but also having had Saxenda in the past and compound tirzepatide, which is the same medication as Zepbound and Mounjaro. If you're interested in an overview of what has happened so far, I will link the video that is the first of these two parts, and this is the second of those two parts. So I hope that this will be beneficial to you. I want to start with a little bit of a disclaimer, and I'm going to be going back and forth with my glasses because I have made some notes to keep myself on track. But the disclaimer is I am not a medical professional. I am a doctor, but I am not a medical doctor. And I am not saying anything about your journey or what you should be doing or what's best for you. You need to check with a doctor who knows you well or establish care with a doctor who can get to know you well to know what's best for you on your journey. And I wish you, just the very best. I can't say that enough. So I want to give you an overview about what this video is going to be about. I'm going to put the glasses on, so I'm going to have the circly eyes to look at this. So in this video, I will be talking about the issue of deflection. Right, that's one of the things which has to do with when you're trying to get something done and people keep shifting blame and all you really want is a solution, right? I will also be talking about the way that I will be moving forward with Zepbound 7.5 having been denied so far, my prescription, by my insurance. More on that as I talk about it. And then I'm also going to be talking about an announcement that I don't know, maybe ironically was made today. I'm probably going to need tissues too because my allergies are on alert. An announcement that was made today and what that announcement means for us and my interpretation of it, which is not an official interpretation by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an interpretation. It's my opinion based on a lot of research. I will say also moving forward that I am a researcher. I went to push my glasses up. They're not there. You ever do that? That I am a researcher as part of my professional life. I am a college professor, and part of that is having had doctoral work, doing a lot of research to produce dissertation work, and then also just having been a researcher throughout my career. I've been a research assistant at graduate degree granting institutions and have been doing research in different ways, and a hair, errant out there, for most of my career. Well, really all of my career, and then a little bit before my teaching career because I was in school for a really long time. And who knows if I'm finished? I love school. I think I am. If my family or friends are watching, and you're my friends, but the people who know me IRL in real life hear that, they'll be like, oh my gosh, is she going back to school? Who knows? You never know. So let's start with deflection, shall we? So I know that pretty much all of us in our lives have probably deflected blame or responsibility at some point. It's a human tendency. It's a human tendency. Again, the allergies are there. So I apologize for that. But in this case, there were two entities who are deflecting responsibility for what has happened with my Zepbound prescription. That other video will help you understand that, but just to catch you up a little bit, my insurance was blaming my doctor for not doing the prior authorization carefully and correctly, and my doctor's office was blaming the insurance, saying that they had all the information they needed and that there was nothing else they could supply. In the process of that, my doctor's office became tired of doing the prior authorizations and appealing the decision, which they never did really appeal formally in a formal appeals process. That comes at the end of when your prior authorizations get denied. And they were no longer willing to advocate for me. That having been said, I will say that I think most of the responsibility for this problem and its solution is me at the end of the day, but part of the problem is I. At the that's it. At the end of the day, though, the insurance company does bear the larger portion of responsibility. I'm not going to say blame because I don't want to blame anyone. I just want my medicine, right? I'm really grateful to have access to it. But now that we do have access to it, I'm thankful to God. I'm thankful to the people who created it and found out its efficacy. But now I need the people that I pay well to do their work and get the prescription worked out for me. I don't have a problem with having a copay. In the past, I haven't had a copay, and I'm super grateful for that. And there's some situations where you might go, well, if you haven't had a copay and you've been on this since 2023, I've had a few copays here and there. But if you haven't, well, maybe now it's just time for you to pay. And I disagree with that for a variety of reasons, which I'll try to get into later in this video. So all of that in consideration, the big issue was my insurance company said that my doctor was not reporting my current weight. My current weight is 258 pounds. I have weighed as high as about 175 pounds more than that. I had resolved that issue by the time that I got on Zepbound, so that I was firmly in, kind of the middle of the 300s. But on Zepbound, I have lost 93 pounds. So I was really up at the half mark of the 300 pounds. So I could just say 350 pounds, couldn't I? So I have lost 93 pounds so far in total, right? And I've stopped kind of keeping track of that because I want to wait till I'm back on my medication. Not stopped keeping track of it. It hasn't changed. Let me rephrase that. I'm not looking as closely at the scale right now because I'm afraid that any of the changes that happen there might affect how I feel about my journey. And so I don't want to really focus on that. I'm making sure that I'm okay, and I am. I am staying at that weight so far, but I'm not going to think about it a lot because the scale can do a trick on your mind pretty easily. So back to the deflection. So the insurance company said your doctor's not providing this. In the first video, I explain really deeply about what was going on and the reason my doctor wasn't accurately reporting my weight. So that was true. My doctor's office was not doing that. And there's something else that I'm going to tell you about in a minute that they messed up on that makes me think there may have been more. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've all messed up, but this is important professional stuff to consider. So that's the deflection thing. Doctor blaming insurance, insurance blaming doctor, angry at each other, right? At one point in the process, well, it's actually a couple of points, but one point recently, and this go round, because I did all of this in March of 2025, and we're right now in November of 2025. So I've been through this before, so I kind of know how it goes, and I kind of know the rules of the game a little bit, but not so much that it solves anything, just enough to be a little jaded with the process. So the whole part of the issue is when you get on the phone with people who are defensive, and that's happened both with my doctor's office and with the insurance company when they are trying to defend something that you're not attacking. You just want a solution, right? At no point during this process, another caveat, have I lost my temper with anyone in front of them. Right. Now, what I might say when I'm in a closed door room with my spouse, also known as the disembodied voice, is a totally different thing. But at no point have I been ugly or hateful or difficult. The whole time, as I mentioned this in the first part of the video, my goal has been solution oriented, and my goal has been just to speak the truth in love as the Bible asks us to do. And that is what I am trying to do. But sometimes when you speak the truth, people do not like that. I talk about this more in the first video too. People don't know how to respond to it. It's almost as if they've got a script prepared for if you're angry. And when you're not, they don't really know what to say. And if you aren't angry, then I think they expect you just to give up and go away. And when you don't do that, they don't know what to say either. So that's pretty interesting. Y'all, I'm shiny, but that's the level of cold weather Vaseline on my face is what that is. So that's where we got to with the deflection. And as promised, the next part of this has to do with the solution. So how am I solving this issue? Well, you have to know first that I recently appealed. And this recently, I mean yesterday, I appealed the insurance company's decision, and they said they would get back in touch with me within 24 hours. This was actually day before yesterday because they got back in touch with me yesterday, but it kind of runs together. Apologies. So they did get back in touch with me. I called to check on it, and shortly after I called to check on it with no answer, I got a call, who knows, telling me what their decision was. And their decision was twofold. They said I was no longer in a state of their denial, right? So they were no longer saying they were denying the prescription. Now, to be clear, I sent in my own records and a rationale for why I should get the medication. I wrote that out, and I wrote, what records I had, I supplied with them and supplied them with a petition as part of that appeal. Again, not everyone is prepared to do that. I do stuff like that all the time. I write stuff like that a lot in that same category, and so it was comfortable for me to do. And I had one from last year that I ended up updating, and I wrote it completely differently, but I added some of the same information because they're talking about the continuum of time I've been on Zepbound. Not always 7.5. I started with 2.5 just like everyone else has. Maybe I'll remember to say more about that in a minute. If not, I'm going to make a separate video about another topic, and I will talk about that at the end of this video. So I was no longer, they said that was no longer considered a denial. They were reviewing it, but it would take 30 days. Y'all, I'm already without the medication since the shot I was supposed to take October 10th, right? And there's a whole different issue occurring here with dosage, which I'm going to get to as a subset of this part of the video. But 30 days, they have the information. They're now saying they have the information to look at, is my understanding, unless they're going to come back and tell me something different, which they might. But all of that, right, was to say it's going to be a month. Well, by then, is it on purpose so that I'll have to go back down in dose? I don't know. I've done a lot of research about the intentions associated with these prior authorizations in the first place, because that's what's happened every step of the way. It's a prior authorization, it's denied. It's a prior approval or prior authorization. People call it different things. It's denied. So they're saying, we don't see what we need to see. We don't see what we need to see. Now, they're seeing that I have an obstructive sleep apnea diagnosis, which is one of the indications for the medicine Zepbound, tirzepatide. And I no longer have to use CPAP therapy for that because of the weight that I've lost and how much healthier I've gotten. They're seeing my incredible, fantastic, God-given lab results that have gotten so much better. I'm off medication for high blood pressure. That is no longer something I'm dealing with on a chronic basis. I've lost, 93 pounds so far with this medication, after having successfully lost weight in the past and just reaching a stall that couldn't be breached, which is why the medication was needed. Variety of things, insulin resistance, menopause, just my metabolic, base metabolic rate, things like that. And so they're seeing all of this, right? It's right in front of them. And now they have a reported documented weight, which they're not letting me know for sure. They're not saying that out loud yet, but I know they do. And so, and again, I talk about that in the other video. So what is there to look at for 30 days was my question. And boy, did folks get defensive. Woo! And this wasn't even the people making the decision. This was a couple of the people who talked to you on the phone. Most of them are super, super helpful. I'm not going to say the insurance company's name, but most of them are super helpful. But a couple of them got defensive with me. And they don't like when you're pointing out that they're being defensive, because one of the things that I typically say when that happens, because as a college professor, I'm in a lot of situations where people can be defensive, and I've learned to deal with that kind of thing. I'm not afraid of confrontation. That doesn't bother me at all, and I'm not going to change who I am during a confrontation. And so there's a lot of practice that goes into that as you have a teaching career or another kind of career that, tell me if you've had that, another kind of career that requires that kind of skill. And so when, they're starting to get a little terse, I said, this is no reflection on you, and I hope that you don't feel like you have to be defensive based on decisions that are made way above both of our pay grades. And boy, that doesn't help. But it does let you go on the recording as saying, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying this is not acceptable. And what are my next steps? And see, that's the thing. Along the way, the rules change. So when you call, you might hear something like, well, nothing can be done, right? And then the more you about it, they're like, well, let me give you the number I'll transfer you and give you the number for our prior authorization department. What? Nobody's ever told me that department existed before. Now, I knew at this time, but back in March, I didn't know. I'm like, well, if there's somebody else I could have been talking to, why am I not talking to that person the whole time? And I think I know. And I think you probably are figuring it out too. because they're tired of listening to me. They don't have anything new to say to me. So they're going to send me to someone else. And this is a corporate culture that has been set up already that is of deflection, of defensiveness, of denial, right? So that's what's happening. And so I talk to them, and the people get progressively more, how you doing, right, as we go along. But I hear about these things, and I have asked, well, if these were people I needed to be talking to, why haven't I talked to them already? And I get all kinds of non-answers on that, but that's okay. People are trying to do what they've been told to do. And to be clear, a lot of people who are doing these calling centers for these insurance companies and other companies, they don't know what the agenda is. They just know what they've been told to say in certain circumstances. So it's not at fault at all. And I've been clear and never raised my voice and never, I've said that already. But that was what was happening along the way. And so that's what got me into this state of not denial, but it's going to take us 30 days. It doesn't take 30 days, right? Have a doctor review it, have the doctor review it. It doesn't take 30 days. And one of the people, the representative, said, well, we serve, we serve hundreds of thousands of people. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And I know it must be difficult. But you're not serving hundreds of thousands of people right now. You're just serving me, right? And the person said, oh, well, I mean the doctor who has to go over this. And I said, so there's one doctor who works for this company who does, oh, no, ma'am, that's not what I'm saying. And I'm like, then what are you saying? And then it goes to nothing, right? And I don't say, then what are you saying? I say, then what is it that you're saying? Because I really do want to understand. But again, people would rather tell each other to F off, I think, than have honest, open conversations. And I know that there's only so much that folks can say to me on a recorded line. And I've said that out loud. I understand that, and things that I've wanted to be said in case the call is actually being recorded. But, get me to the next person. It's like the buck stops way too low for insurance companies, and the folks who really have the power don't have to listen to any of this, right? They don't have to listen to any of this. And so that's an important thing to note. So that was the whole issue around the results that I made happen. So yesterday, when I realized that was going to be a 30-day process, and by that time, I am in a position where I am going to have to start back at 2.5 with the medication, which would have been fine with me if it worked. I don't need complete appetite suppressing at this point. I just need something that takes the edge off of the food noise, because the food noise is back, y'all. And I'm going to need to make a whole other Zepbound related video to that, but it is back, and it is part of the reason that this medication was necessary to begin with. So I did what a lot of other people have done, and I called Lily Direct. That is the solution part of the video. I called Lily Direct, and I am paying for a month, at least a month, of Zepbound. I'm able to pay. Is it in my budget? Absolutely not. It is not in my budget, and we are coming up on the holidays. I do a lot of my holiday preparation over the summer too, so that's very helpful. But it does put us in a bind. It does put us in a bind. It doesn't put us in any kind of financial distress, right? But it does put us in a bind. I mean, there aren't a lot of people, and I'm about to reveal the price to you, who could afford this kind. And I can't afford it. Let's be clear. I'm making it happen. And we're going to take things out of other areas in the budget because this is so important. Imagine it being important for us to have our medication. But I think that all goes back to this fallacy that people are somehow cheating or being lazy or weak when they use GLP-1 for weight loss success. And that is not the case at all. Weight loss is a recognized issue for people with chronic obesity. And chronic obesity is on the lips of a lot of researchers right now, because what a lot of us suspected a long time ago by watching our families and watching the people around us other than our families, especially the families though, for the genetic component, if you are in a family to which you are biologically related. And if you're not, who knows, right? What's going on in a lot of those cases. But watching my family, I knew that on my mother's side of the family, chronic obesity is just a thing. I watched every single member of my mother's family, bar one, deal with weight loss over the years and really try hard and really do their best. And these were some of the most, I mean, in my life, the most hardworking, incredible, dedicated, smart people I'd ever met. My mother, all of her siblings, except for one aunt who is lovely, but she's the one person who didn't have to deal with it. I don't know what would have happened with my maternal grandmother, whom I look a lot like, right? I don't know what might have happened with her because she had Lou Gehrig's disease for a portion of her life that kind of just changed the trajectory of her health completely, right? Didn't kind of, it really did. But everyone else, everybody was always on a diet, always doing something, trying so hard. Again, hard working people, right? And so I knew that. And it was frustrating for so many years to be treated like there was just something lazy or indifferent about me and my desire to lose weight, that there was some kind of moral or emotional or mental health failing, right? I'm sure many of you have felt that way if you're watching this video. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am a hardworking person and I have done everything, sometimes not even within reason, sometimes outside of reason, that I could do. And I got to a point in my weight loss journey after having already lost a significant amount of weight where it just wasn't coming off anymore. And we know the science around that is evolving. But what we do know is there are all sorts of things, like if you look up set point as something relating to weight, you'll see some research around that. But all of these things are just to clarify that there is nothing weak about you if you have dealt with the condition. The recognized medical condition of chronic obesity. My goodness, you're a warrior. You're a warrior. It's so hard because you can do all kinds of things and not have results. Again, menopause, metabolic disorders, insulin resistance type of things. And so this is really crucial for us to understand to get to kind of the next part of the whole discussion, which is this is not medicine that we want to have to take. Full stop. If I didn't have to give myself a shot, or at some point in the future may have to swallow a pill about something, you better believe I wouldn't. I've given up every little bit of medication. I apologize, y'all, but I have got the allergies on. I have tried to get rid of every little bit of medication that I could so that the only things that I am left with are things that affect my life in a way that makes it better, right? And so that's what I've been trying to do. And I have proven, I have maintained 19% of my body weight loss, and 5% is all that's required to be approved for this medication. So that should be the one piece of information it doesn't take 30 days to figure out. So I am on the phone at this point with Lily Direct, and I'm like, this is just what's going to happen. And every step of the way, I promised I'd talk a little bit about dosage. I stopped going up because I had efficacy with food noise being gone. I stopped going up on the dosage. I believe now tirzepatide goes up to 15 milligrams, correct me if I'm wrong, in the shots, but I stopped doing that at 7.5, which of course is half of 15. Y'all know that. Sorry. I want to insult your intelligence because you're very smart and bright and wonderful, but I wanted to stop when it was effective because I had horrible side effects in a gastric way, right? And they got better over time. We'll see what happens, but in the future, but they got better over time. And I was like, let's just stop here. I don't need to go any higher. And that's a decision I could make. It's a decision that my doctor supported. And so that's the direction that we moved in. So that having been said, now I am a month basically without having had an injection. Now, according to my app, and I can't show you my phone because I'm recording this on my phone, but I use the app for Android, Shotzi, which gives you an estimate of how much of the medicine is still in your system. And per my app, there's very little left, right? So along the way, I asked, can 7.5, do I need to start back at 7.5 or should we move down? My doctor said, no, you don't need to move down. I called the pharmacist at Eli Lilly today because I was just like, I need to know this for sure. And she said, if you've been taking it for months and months, which I have been taking it for months and months, I've been at this dosage for a long time. She was like, it shouldn't cause you any problems as long as you have it within like the next week. So I am paying Lilly Direct, Eli Lilly, $499 a month for 4 vials, so one a week of not the pens that I have been using of Zepbound, but the vials, as I said just a minute ago several times, I think, I'm sorry, that I then have to draw up in a syringe and give to myself. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't mind having a shot. I don't even mind giving myself a shot, but drawing it up, I have to figure out something around that. I probably will end up drawing it up myself. My doctor is like 35 miles away. That has to do with where we live. I'm not going to complain about that because we made these decisions and that's fine. I'm not hopefully complaining about anything, just talking about reasons and solutions. So I will be paying that for at least this month. If the insurance does what they're supposed to do, I hope that it's back to my pens that are auto injectable and that, they will cover that. And so I'll be doing that. It's a lot of money. It was actually, let me give you all the total, right? It's actually, sorry, I'm having to lean forward. Look at my little book. It's actually, I remember writing this down. I think it's $504. Yeah, it's $504. So it's $499 plus, get this, y'all, and I think you'll get the irony of it, plus $5 for the supplies associated with giving yourself a shot, unless you want to go somewhere and buy them yourself and find them cheaper. You're kidding me. I've just paid $500, $499 for a medicine that arrives in 4 little vials. And I know about all the billions of dollars of research, and I know about all the stuff that they say affects the price. I know about that stuff, and I could say more about it, but I don't want to in this video. That'll be for another video. But so it's $5 additional dollars for 5 syringes in case I mess one up, and a couple Band-Aids, couple alcohol prep pads, that sort of thing. So at that point, though, you're like, whatever, just send it all, right? Because I don't want to have to go through the extra steps of hunting down the extra things. And I'm super busy, y'all. I'm super busy during this whole process because I'm teaching, I'm grading, I'm attending meetings, I'm writing products, which for me is classes. I am helping my students. My goodness, so happy to help my students, and I'm helping them this whole time too. So that's super important to think about. So they've got my money, and unfortunately, and I want to make this very clear, the horrible, horrible tragedy of the plane, just tragic plane incident that occurred in Louisville, Kentucky is affecting shipping times. That's okay. I don't have anything to talk about that is anywhere even in the neighborhood of that kind of horror. And I'm so sorry. And my heart goes out to, and I'm praying so much for the people affected as that continues to unfold. Please join me in doing that. That is not any part of the problem. The problem is just the process that it took to get up to this point, and the fact that I am now expected with very expensive insurance and, medical care to pay for this myself out of pocket. And my heart goes out to everybody who's been doing this the whole time. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. And I have always known it's wrong, but it's affecting me now. And I don't think it's any more wrong because it's affecting me. I've said this whole time in every video I've made about Zepbound. I think I've said, I'm so sorry if you can't get it. And I'm so sorry if you're being made to pay for it out of your own pocket beyond like a reasonable copay, especially. So sorry about those situations indeed. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about something I previewed in the overview, which has to do with this announcement. So to recap the announcement that I'm about to tell you about, you may have already heard it. To recap, though, issues with deflecting blame, once it got sorted, right, it meant an additional 30-day lapse in my medication. And that's not something that I'm prepared to start over with. If I absolutely had to, I would, but I'm privileged enough to be able to spend that money, even though it's not within my budgeted expenditures, which include just really basic things. We're not a family that really splashes out a whole lot. So that, even though it is Christmas coming up and all those things. So this announcement, let me go and tell you what the latest is. I have my computer open for a variety of reasons, but one of them is so that I can share this with you. So there has been an announcement from Eli Lilly, who have $500 of my money, $504 of my money, and Novo Nordisk about the future of cost as it has to do with GLP-1 medicines. So this is, again, as you probably already noticed, we're almost at 30 minutes. It's going to be a long video, but that will be in the title of the video. So the GLP-1 announcement in the United States, and apparently there are people from all over the world who are here to film it. More on that, because I'm going to talk about something else that's happening right now that may or may not be a coincidence, that's super important in the world of obesity studies. So this is coming from the news source, The Hill. For complete transparency, I've pulled up The Hill. There were several that came up, and that's the one I pulled up. So I'm not going to share any biased information except for my own opinion, right? I'm just going to tell you basically what happened. Just the stuff that they say happened. So their headline is, Trump announces deal with Eli Lilly Novo Nordisk to lower prices on obesity drugs. This was 12:04 p.m. ET today, November 6th, right? Today, November 6th, 2025. So it says the Trump administration announced its newest pharmaceutical agreement under its most favored nation policy Thursday, striking deals with Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly to sell their GLP-1 products at discount prices. According to senior administration officials, the two manufacturers have agreed to sell their injectable GLP-1 products for a monthly starting price of $245 for people on Medicare and Medicaid, which that's really good news, but more on that in a minute, as well as those who use the Trump RX platform expected to launch early next year. Oral GLP-1s will also be sold through the same avenues at a starting price of $149 a month, and I'm going to see if that matches what I have heard so much. Yeah, oral at $150 is what I heard, but $149. A senior administration official said, however, that this price will only apply to GLP-1 tablets that are currently under review that will be approved for obesity. And that starts kind of my section of this, just to let you know that that's what's happening. So that's what's happening, and that's a big announcement. And I think a lot of people will come to inaccurate conclusions based on that. First of all, this is not a favor that the U.S. government or any administrative officials in the U.S. government is doing for anyone. Right? This is a deal that affects Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk's bottom line when they do business in this country, right? I'm pretty sure Novo Nordisk is European Scandinavian. I'm just not going to say anything specific because I don't really remember, but I did know that at one time. You ever feel like that? And this is something that affects, as part of favored nation status, that affects their ability to do business in the United States. And so it's in their best interest to give better prices. And of course, most governmental regimes, administrations, regardless of which side of the aisle or straight down the middle, are going to take credit for that, right? When the credit doesn't really belong to them or the companies. Everybody's still wealthy. Everybody's still making money. And I don't believe, I'm going to go on the record as saying, I don't believe anybody involved, maybe other than the scientists and maybe a few other people, I don't know. But the people who are extremely, incredibly wealthy, I don't think care at all whether or not I get my GLP-1 medicines at all, or whether I pay less for them or more for them. I think their bottom line is what they care about. If not, these medications would have been available in the same way that Dr. Jonas Salk made the polio vaccine available so long ago. He did not patent that medicine. He did not patent that vaccination so that he could give it away because he believed it belonged to everybody and not to him. And if people still had that ethic, that is what they would do. They would say, oh my gosh, we can solve the obesity crisis largely in our generation. Let's just go ahead and give this away. And they're not going to. Right. And I want to take a moment to step back, and this video might end up being an hour long, and I apologize if that's the case, but it's a big moment for me and for a lot of people. I want to step back and say that I don't expect people to work for free. Dr. Salk got paid for his work, right? But there are some things that are so important to the human race that they should not have a price tag put on them. And I think the ability to alleviate Obesity from childhood forward is one of those things. And that when people are greedy around it, it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting. And it's also, again, predicated on the idea that there's something flawed about those of us who struggle with our weight. And I usually don't use bad words. Friends, it is not lost on me that I started to say a little wordy bird, and that was when the video stopped. But I was only going to say CRAP. Really, that was all I was going to say. But anyway, we're back. I freed up some storage and we're back. So as I was saying, I think all of that is icky when we put monetary price tags, when we put price tags on things like that. So that is the deal of what's going on. So the idea is that they are going to get a little cheaper, which is, to be honest, what really happens with medicines anyway. I'm glad that they're going to be available to people with Medicare and Medicaid. I think they should be even cheaper than that or free, as I said before, but nobody cares what I think about that. Well, maybe you do, and I care about what you think too, but that's just we chickens, right? So that is where we stand with all of that. And again, I want to go completely on the record saying these rich people are still going to be rich, and they're still going to be making money, and they're still going to be doing exactly what it is that they have been doing. And this is an opportunity for governments and folks to make themselves look good and like they're doing something good for the human race, when actually it's just a smokescreen of sorts. Now, I've been very clear on that, and I will tell you, I looked it up when the video went off, and it's a Danish company. Novo Nordisk is a Danish company, so Denmark is its country of origin. So the next piece I wanted to say, and we're moving towards the end of the video, next piece I wanted to deal with is the fact that it is right now Obesity Week 2025 is meeting in Atlanta, Georgia. It is November 4th through the 7th at the Georgia World Congress Center. This is an innovative science-based opportunity for people all over the community that have to do with obesity studies to get together and talk. It's a super important academic colloquium, and all kinds of things are going to be discussed there. Their theme this year is transformational care, including the idea of chronic disease, obesity first, treating obesity. So that is crucial because they're dealing with all kinds of scientific ideas around that. Now, do I think it's a coincidence that that happened at the same time as the announcement from the government, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly? No, I do not. I think it was absolutely on purpose, right? I don't know what you think, but that's what I think. I don't know. Well, I'm not going to go any further on that. So they have all kinds of cool sessions going on around GLP-1. There are some people who are really big in the GLP-1 community on YouTube and other places who have gone on these journeys who are attending that. And so again, that's Obesity Week 2025 that ran from the 4th to tomorrow to the 7th at the Georgia World Congress Center. So that's really kind of cool. And I was also going to tell you they're evidence-based scientific information, and they're specifically dealing with a lot of things that have to do with what we're discovering about and what we still don't know about the brain and gut connection. We know, and we've known for a number of years, we've known since really quite historical times, really into antiquity, we've known that there is a really strong connection between our neurological health and how our gut is a part of that, right? So that is something they're doing a lot of research on, which is fantastic. It's fantastic. And I'm always in favor of scientific discovery and in further research around those sorts of things, especially as it affects future generations, right? Especially as we move forward. But do I think that's a coincidence in light of today's announcement? No, I do not. And it even happened, y'all, basically 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. It happened almost in the middle. When it happened today, happened almost in the middle of that. So that's interesting. If you know anything about how those academic conferences run, there's a certain amount of time people get in, they have dinner, they mingle, they meet, they have all the events, and then they get ready to go home, and that takes a little while too. I've attended a lot of those types of meetings, not necessarily in the hard science community, but in the education community in general with people who were in the hard sciences. And when I was writing courses for a large entity I will not name here, I met with people from all different kinds of disciplines because I worked with subject matter experts to write all different kinds of courses, from the sciences to mathematics to the liberal arts, humanities, all those kinds of things. So that is where we stand right now. So to recap, I'm concerned about taking the 7.5 after I've been off the medication for a while, but I will keep you posted about what happens with that, right? I am past all the worrying about deflection because we have solved the problem for now. I did get an answer that I am no longer denied for my medication, but I am in fact in the review process, which, if it's done correctly, should result in my having my prescription again and having a low or no cost Zepbound experience, which I'm super grateful for and looking forward to. But right now, I am, as of now, in the hole, right? $500, $504. Those $4 are important, just as important as the others, for a month of 4 vials and attendant supplies to give myself regular syringe injections and not the automatic pen that I was using before. I'm okay with giving myself a shot, but again, the issue is just worried about drawing it up. But I may find people who'd be willing to help me with that, or even willing to administer it. And I work with a lot of nurses, and they're wonderful. So I might have an opportunity to do that. I think that's all I wanted to say for now. Let me make sure there's nothing else that I haven't told you, right? So the remaining problem, I was going to tell you one more thing. I'm sorry. The remaining problem is just how it's going to move forward for me, right? So that's what we've got to look at in future videos, is where am I now and how are things going to work moving forward. And I also wanted to mention this because we talked about price, and I wanted to make sure to include this. So a lot of people ask the question, how do they determine how much to charge for this medicine and how much they can afford to make it and have profit and all the things? Like, again, no problem with people making money. I don't think this should be a money-making thing, but if it's going to be, that's fine. And one of the things I've noticed in my research, and I made a note about this, is that we can't know how they arrive at these prices because they have opaque discounting practices. Now, opaque obviously means we can't see through them. It's the opposite of transparent, which is a word I was using earlier. So if they have opaque discount practices, that means we don't know who's getting a deal or how they provide these deals, and they have literally a middleman. And this goes back to a video I made about pharmacy benefit managers and some of the issues around that. But they do not have a transparent pricing process. And the reason is because they don't want us to know. If they wanted us to know, and if it were something they could be proud of, they would tell us, right? So keep that in mind. These are arbitrary prices set by an industry that is known for its opacity, that is known for not being transparent. So I just wanted to end the video with that. And I especially want to end the video with asking you, please do, if you can advocate for yourself and others, please do that when you can, especially that others thing, because I am a Christ follower. You may not be, and that's okay. But Christ asked me to love my neighbor. He asked me to serve him, to love God, however you see God, and to, or however I, in that case, see God, and to love my neighbor as myself. And so to do that, I have to be willing to go to bat for my neighbors in the same way that I'll go to bat for myself. So if you need help, reach out to get it. If you know me and you need help, let me know. If you need help getting to help, please let me know. I do love you very much, and I hope you know how loved you are. Oh my goodness, I hope you do. And I hope you'll always go with me in peace and love to serve others. Please pray for everyone who's hurting right now in the whole wide world. Special intentions for the beautiful people of Kentucky, especially the Louisville issue and dealing with this, that Governor Beshear will know the right things to do to help people, for comfort and peace for the folks who are hurting and sorrow and are suffering, all of those things. And of course, as always, for the beautiful people and the beautiful country of Ukraine.